Well, I'm Chris Kappler, and I work at Raytheon BBN Technologies, and we are demonstrating today the Distributed Resource Controller. The Distributed Resource Controller is meant to fill a space between control plane implementations to allow a control plane to control plane communication the way that OpenFlow has allowed a control plane to data plane communication. So today our GENI experiment on the provider screen is using a sliver that has 4 gateways and a grid of switches. So in our graph database, that representation, that network is represented in this way. The red boxes indicate OpenFlow switches, and the panels indicate customer sites of a VPN. The yellow customer is represented on the customer screen too. The initial action of the provider is to share a part of his subgraph, a part of his graph as a small subgraph, which appears as a green tile on the customer screen. The customer then can take action on that virtual private network. For example, the customer can make a connection from one site to another and can generate the routes that they will need to switch data from their 2 sites of their enterprise. Because of the sharing mechanisms of the system, those routes and that connection are shadowed back to the provider. So from the provider's point of view, label switch paths have been created that go from the points that the customer had indicated. The system employs a set of abstractions and triggers in the database so that when policies are decorated onto the network graph at one layer, behavior is automatically triggered at lower layers to program the OpenFlow switches and the Linux gateways with the rules and policies they will need to implement the network. And so in this way, the network provider can lower their operational expenses by having the customer directly configure their needs and directly manage their own costs and policies for their network equipment. The graph that is shared among the provider and the customer is just a partial subgraph. The provider does not disclose their entire network topology, just the part of the topology that is relevant to the customer. Likewise, the customer's graph, which has a rich detail about the enterprise infrastructure, is not shared back to the provider, just the points in space that are needed to allow the label switch path to be set up for the VPN. The Distributed Resource Controller is, again, an add-on that is meant to be put into anyone's controller platform, anyone's OpenFlow controller, and it allows controller-to-controller synchronization. This demonstration of a virtual private network is one example of how it could be deployed. There are many others that we're currently working on. Thank you.